Hey, good evening if you're watching live. Welcome to episode 183 of About the Cards podcast, live tonight on YouTube. As always, kind of sometimes with Stefan Loeffler these days at Junk Wax Twins. I'm Ben Wilson at Our Trading Cards. Unfortunately, Steph had to bow out of tonight's episode. His mother is ill, so prayers and thoughts with the Loeffler family this evening. I'm joined, literally had to pull two guys out of the bullpen tonight. We were slated to have Dub Mentality on, and he had to cancel this morning. So I've got Andrew Renault with Bayside.
Hey.
And Jeffrey, however you pronounce his last name, Zelski. How are you?
Good. Hey, I'm glad to be here.
I appreciate both the guys hopping in because it was literally last, 8 hours ago. We're a podcast by collectors for collectors. We hope to bring you a smart and insightful podcast discussing trading card collecting. All cards tell a story. What stories do your cards tell? We are live every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific, 10 Central for those of you guys in the Central. We're on YouTube. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at About the Cards. We're available as a podcast everywhere you can find one. You can probably check out our website, but whatever. We're going to hopefully in 2022 do something with it. We just don't know what yet.
You guys said that last year too, so.
Well, this is one of those like running jokes on a sitcom that you keep saying. It's like, all right, enough already. Steph and I had some ideas and we're like, who cares? So some quick announcements. Unfortunately, the first two are going to be on a bit of a sad note. In case you haven't heard, longtime hobbyist and collector Bill Hetrick passed away last week, according to a tweet from his wife, Marilyn. Bill passed away on December 23rd, 2021. Bill was a lifelong Dolphins fan who collected autographs and memorabilia. He'll be remembered in the hobby as a wonderful contributor. Bill worked in the New York Mets organization in the early 80s as a minor league baseball assistant GM. Mark Hoyle has some great pictures of him with, I think, Randy Myers, if I'm not mistaken. I can't share this stuff. I can't figure out how to use the StreamYard. And great card of Bill on from a minor league set. Picture of him with Billy Beans. So, if you were a friend of Bill's, I'm sure this is, some somber news. And obviously we wish the Hetrick family nothing but the best. And if there's anything that we can do as a community, please let us know. Other sad news that literally came out of nowhere, the passing of the icon, the legend, the legacy, the name, the voice of a generation, John Madden. I'm sure everybody with a microphone or a keyboard has tweeted out, their thoughts, blogged their thoughts, written articles, talked about it. What were your guys' thoughts on hearing of the passing of Madden?
I mean, it came so out of the blue. Didn't know anything was wrong. It just, it was so shocking that it happened. And then, you go back and think of just how big of an important part of your life he was. I was a little bit too young to know him as a coach. He was always an announcer and the host of Madden Football, but even then he still had a big impact on the game. And then I always remember him too from being as a announcer in the movie The Replacements. Just him and Pat Summerall together were always the best, and I don't know how you would ever top those two guys together. And it was a little rough.
Yeah, similar to Andrew. He was obviously like his name wasn't in the media much, and then all of a sudden, it unfortunately occurred recently, in that he passed away. So everyone was kind of shocked. And I was just reading up on some statistics and just data on him, and it's pretty interesting as to see how many people he touched and just like the video game franchises that he blew up. And it's quite obviously sad, because obviously his health, who knows what happened, but it seemed like it deteriorated pretty fast, because it seemed like he was in good health as of recently. But at 85, I believe he was 85.
I mean, he lived as much of a charmed life as one could see, at least on the surface, right? We don't know what happened, like everybody. He's got, I'm sure he had plenty of things in his personal life, but I mean, his story, his life, I mean, it was amazing, and the NFL would not be where it's at today without him. He perhaps is the, outside of maybe Lombardi, I mean, he's on a short list of people that that were synonymous with the league, a generation, the video games. I mean, I put out in a tweet that the word fun comes to mind with him because he was so enthusiastic, so passionate about football and the X's and O's, but he talked to everybody the same, in the sense that the way he was able to communicate with his knowledge, it was superior to a lot of people, but he talked on our level to where we could understand. And that is so difficult and challenging to be able to, how do I get my brain into layman's terms? And, between the Turkey Day games and the video games, I mean, it's hard not to think of fun and excitement and enjoyment when you think of Madden, whether it was through the video games or through the actual game of football.
Yeah. No, I will say that. I mean, you think about other video games. You play NHL from EA Sports. You play FIFA if you're playing soccer. You play NBA 2K, whatever, if you're playing NBA games. If you're playing a football game, you don't play NFL. You play
Right.
Madden. Like that's you don't even his name is synonymous with the football game in and of itself. And if he did nothing else, he revolutionized that because, just the story of how he wanted to develop the game and that he insisted that if he was going to put his name on it, it had to be a realistic game and, not be a 7-on-7, but a real 11-on-11 type game. Just those kinds of things that helped further not only football, but also the video game industry. And it's something that really you really can't, you'll never see it again. You just won't.
No, perfect storm of, being on TV with Summerall in the 70s when there was only 3 networks.
Mm-hmm.
And he worked for all the networks at one point in his career. He was, party of all of them. And 50 years from now, his name will, still walk in the lore amongst the great of the greats, the upper echelon, the 1% of the 1%, so to speak. So, the football world, the sports world, he just appeared to be a great human being, and the world lost a very special talent. So, we wanted to mention that at the top of the show, like everybody else. So, before we get into the actual show, we did have a YouTube comment last week from Kevin Leahy. Chris Harris, Stale Gum was on, Dewey Lund was on. We were talking about vintage being the term for an era, and that 1990 Topps, just because it's now 30 plus years old, isn't vintage. It's part of the junk wax era. You had the tobacco era, you had the pre-war era, you had the vintage era, you had the junk wax era, you had the modern era. The term vintage cards defines that. And Kevin said, guys, stop telling us what the standard or industry standard in today's hobby definition is for what are vintage cards. There's no standard, there's no policies, there's no governing body. Vintage is based off of personal preference. He asked that we use in my personal opinion. And there's a lot of validity to that. And I appreciate Kevin's comments and insight and perspective. And he also, said, hey, thanks for producing your episode. So we want to thank Kevin for, his support, his listening, and for choosing to leave a comment and be a part of our show. And you're right. It's personal opinion to a large degree. A lot of stuff is subjective. As we said before, we can't agree on what a rookie card is. How are we going to agree on anything else, right? The most common of things in our hobby. But, when we talk about vintage as a word, yes, it usually is tied to a specific timeline and it moves with the calendar. And whoever coined the 50s, 60s, and even 70s era of cards as vintage probably should have called it something else that wasn't dictionary specific. Because we know what the word vintage means, but that's what it was coined. It's an era. The vintage era of cards runs roughly from the end of the pre-war stuff. So, the late 40s, when 48 Leaf and Bowman started coming out, to somewhere in the 70s as we got into the junk wax era. So when I say, hey, I collect vintage, most collectors know what era we're talking about, what cards we're talking about. And again, that's baseball specific, because I don't think that holds true, as we mentioned last week as well, where vintage football cards and vintage basketball cards might not be from that same era. I think that vintage era is specific to baseball. and of course it's open to, it's subjective. It is opinion based, but I think the vast majority of people, will agree that if somebody says I collect vintage, we know what era they're talking about. So we appreciate Kevin for his thoughts, and we welcome anything else he's got, because the beauty about the hobby is there's really no right or wrong answer, no matter what topics. Some things are a little bit more where we can draw a line in the sand, but for the most part, most things aren't.
There is a right answer, that it is the 85 McGuire, right?
So anyway, it was nice to have Andrew on. I think I've been trolled with that just by about every guest we've had on. So anyhow, let's get into it. It's the end of the year, boys. We're going to have a little bit of fun, some laughs. So hopefully it'll be more or less a light show. We're going to do a year in review here in just a little bit once we get through last week's, next week's, today's releases, all that good stuff. So how has the hobby treated you guys this year overall? I mean, was it a good year in the hobby or not? Don't both jump in at once.
Yeah. I would say both. I mean, I got some pretty nice Will Clark cards. Can't argue with that. My soccer collection didn't go as well as I wanted it to, in that Panini Premier League Prism really kicked my butt with, the 46 parallels per person. I got still getting there, but it's a fun chase, and that was fun. But I mean, how many times is Topps going to have Will Clark sign cards? Like, that's all they have him do. That's all they have him do now. And it's like, can we just get some base cards or something that I can chase? Like, I'm sick of going after all these autos of him. So that was, of course I still did it, but, so it was fun. It was a fun year. The delays were frustrating, but it's the world we live in right now, and you just roll with the punches, I guess.
Yeah, similar to Andrew, like the hobby's been good to me. Obviously, I haven't had that much time doing my own personal thing, as Brooke's been obviously busy because I work within the hobby. But in terms of like bads, I would say just unfortunately for most, sealed product is becoming unobtainable, unaffordable. Whereas I've kind of deterred into like speculating, and that's been good for me at the moment. But with all the COVID cases occurring again, who knows where that's going to go? Who knows what lies ahead? But overall, it's been good, and I look forward to 2022.
Yeah. No, I think, hey, we're all around still, right? Hobby fatigue is set in for some. Hopefully everybody stayed in the hobby to some capacity, despite all of the nuances of, that each new year brings. I think we're starting to see a change in the overall landscape. And I'm under the belief personally that the bubble burst sometime late last year, first part of this year, and it will take 2 to 3 years to fully bleed out and start to reset and settle, as most economic bubbles do. And different parts of this industry have already shown that. But, hey, it's fun, right? I mean, if we're not having fun, literally we don't have to do this. So amidst all of the positivity and negativity and love this, I hate this, at the end of the day, stop doing it if we don't enjoy it. And the fact that we're all still here means something good happened this year to keep that passion alive in us. So, here's to, raise the glass. Here's to 2022. Let's have a good year. We'll see what happens with Topps and Panini and Fanatics and, lawsuits and other fun stuff. And, we're all in this together. We're all brothers and sisters in this hobby. Let's love it and enjoy it. It's keeps us young. Even though there's days where we would like to beat our head against a wall, hey, maybe take up gardening for a day or two and reset, wait till next week's releases, because there's always a next week's release. Mm-hmm. So let's get into the show a little bit. We got the year in review coming up. This just in listener mail days and pulls. Unfortunately, I don't know the screen sharing. I did want to share something personally my dad got for me. Starline 1990 brought forth the Long John Silver cards. And I don't know who all was in there. This is set number 3. It's prepackaged with McGuire on the front. I think Mattingly was one of them, if I'm not mistaken. And there's a little Starline logo there in the very bottom. Okay. There was a set from 1989 that I've been watching for a long time. My dad got it for me for Christmas. It's slightly different. It's got the Starline logo, which is the most common, and the Starline and Coca-Cola logo. That's the second most common. Those cards are about $5 to $6 each. No big deal. Then there's the Starline, Coca-Cola, and 7-Eleven logo. ComC has one on eBay right now. Costs you about $30 shipped after shipping and tax. It's like $23 or whatever. Literally, those are the only 3 singles I saw on eBay earlier today. The next one is the Burger King, which is also very, very rare. And then McDonald's, which is very rare. And then the rarest of them all, and I don't know if it just not a lot got into circulation, is the Domino's Pizza one. So that was a very expensive set. He gave it to me as an early Christmas gift. I thank him for that. According to my database, I didn't have any of these in there. I think I had confused them with the 1990, because as you can see, the photo on them is very similar. It's a swinging. If you're listening, it's a McGuire swinging after he's already hit the ball. Again, I've got all of the ones from 1990. I think there were 3 different versions, but yeah, I was really excited to get that 1989 complete set of 6 because they're not easy to come by. But so I thank my dad for that as a Christmas gift. Rich Frank says he's still working on that Batman set. He just added one last night. That's awesome. If you do complete it, definitely share it with us because we want to see it. Anything that's something that we don't have that's not common is pretty freaking cool in our book. So, do you guys have anything you want to share that you picked up recently, or otherwise we're going to move on to the next segment?
I think I put everything away.
All right. Nothing, Jeff?
Oh, yeah, I do. Oh, I thought Andrew was talking. Picked up recently. I got owned. So I opened an inner case of Team Canada from Upper Deck, a whole inner case of like 8 boxes, and I was lucky enough to open this bad boy. But that being said, even after opening this bad boy, I still took a beating and a half on the inner case. It cost me.
And what exactly is that?
It's a Shane Wright, number to 125 auto. He will be projected the first overall pick this year coming up in the NHL draft. He plays on the Kingston Frontenacs of the OHL.
Nice.
So he's no Connor Bedard. Connor Bedard is another prodigy, I guess, next year's first overall pick. So he's getting a little bit more than Shane Wright at the moment. But I hit one of the top 2, I would say, cards within the set, and I still lost. Like there's like, oh my goodness, I just rolled over. So I couldn't even afford half the Christmas gifts I needed.
So that's awesome.
Awesome.
No, I appreciate you sharing. Hey, please feel free to share about the cards your recent mail days pulls. Tag @about the cards on Twitter. If you want to do a video like Herman Bryant did for us one time, that would be fantastic. We'd love to have one of those where we can kind of see the interaction between you and your cards. You can always use the hashtag #about the cards mail day. We'll do our best. We did have one from Matt Torme and Chris Schultz, but again, I'm having difficulty sharing my screen, so we'll have to try to get to those next week when Steph's back, hopefully in the producer's seat. So let's get into the week that was last week's releases. Topps Living Week 198. Card 477, Dave Winfield, outfielder for the Padres. And then card 478, Casey Mize, pitcher for the Tigers, rookie card. I do not have the sold numbers in front of me. Also coming out last week on the 22nd of December was Topps Dynasty and 2021 Panini Mosaic Fast Break Basketball. Friday the 24th on Christmas Eve, 2021 Panini Elite Extra Edition Baseball, Panini Flawless Baseball, and Panini Illusions Football. Did you open any of this, Andrew?
I'm breaking Triple E and Illusions on Sunday.
Nice.
I opened a few boxes of Triple E for myself. Just because it's a fun little rip. You get 8 autos, 2 relics per box. I mean, it's a lot of autos for it's only like a $90 box or something. So I always like to open that one.
Did you get any A's in there for me?
I don't even know. I can't tell.
Excuse me. Did you get any Oakland for me?
Oakland, yes, Oakland.
Oakland.
I'll have to go back and look. I haven't sorted through them yet.
Yeah, the base are out of $9.99. The die cuts are always
Yeah.
beautiful and elite, and then usually you get more autos than I don't say usually. There's a good chance. There's a decent chance, a somewhat chance you'll get more autos than are listed on the box. So elite is always a good value.
Yep.
I
did get the number 1 pick. I can't remember his name, Davis from Pittsburgh. I did get his auto, so that was pretty nice.
Henry Davis, I think.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, so I ended up pulling one of those.
All right, so hot off the press, new releases. Topps Living Week 199 drop today. Card 479, Jonathan India. Rookie card, second base for the Reds from Jared Kelly, and then card 480, Ty France, first baseman for the Mariners. Topps Living Star Wars, available through next Tuesday. Card 269, Orca from Star Wars Resistance. When I saw that, I had to double check because I thought it said Okra. It's a cartoon character. Are you familiar with this character?
I do not watch the cartoon, so no.
Okay. Yeah, it was interesting. And then a big card. I'm assuming it's going to be a big card. Card 270, Obi-Wan Kenobi from Star Wars The Phantom Menace. Therefore, it's Ewan McGregor on the card, not Alec Guinness, of course. Really good picture of him, good rendering. Yeah. I'm sure that's going to sell through well. So,
especially with his new series that he's got coming out next year too. So,
yeah, it'll be Star Wars Living is a really nice set. They're very eclectic because you're dealing with the whole canon there, and they're all over the place as they should be. So it's really fun to kind of, be able to sort them in. You can put them in order, do just by cartoons versus humans, by the movies and the releases. So any number of things. It's really cool.
Yep.
And then Topps Throwback Thursday, available through tomorrow morning. Set 51, 1988 Topps Team Leaders. This is the third rendition of this particular one. Card 151, Shohei Ohtani. 152, Derek Jeter, which is a short print, or also has the short print variations, I should say. And then 153, Tom Glavine on ice skates. So really, really fun set if you are collecting the Throwback Thursday. Major releases coming out or slated to come out this week. Dropping today, 12/29, is 2021-22 Upper Deck MVP Hockey. Coming at you at $50 a box. Is that right? When I saw that, I was like, that's really affordable. Like, it's sad when we look at $50 and think that's a misprint.
There's no autos or anything. So
yeah, no, but that's like a very basic set. I should have bought all that stuff.
Is that more like an opening day if we were to equate that to like baseball?
Yeah.
Okay. But still, you're getting 20 packs, 8 cards a pack, so you're getting a ton of stuff in there, right? 250 base card set. The first 200 are going to be vets. The last 50 are going to be the high series, which are star and rookie short prints. Literally, I saw the sell sheet. I was going to start typing some notes, and there was all kinds of good stuff, it looked like. So check out the sell sheet for specific details. There was too much to type out, but it really seemed like for $50 a box, I mean, there's like 5 mascot cards or something per box, and then different parallels, and a lot of fun. So if you're a hockey collector or looking for something affordable to break with, you're trying to get kids into the sport or just something to open, I don't know that you can beat the Upper Deck MVP Hockey price point. So also coming out, it looks like on Friday the 31st is 2021 Bowman Best Baseball, $275 a box. 12 packs, 4 cards. You'll get 4 chrome autos per master box. Now, Andrew, is a master box just your everyday run-of-the-mill box? I go to the LCS. Is that what the master box?
It's like a Bowman Chrome, 2 mini boxes per master.
Okay.
So it's really 6 packs per mini box, and then you get 2 mini boxes per master.
Okay. So whatever all of that means, they couldn't try to make this stuff more understandable.
It's like I said, it's the exact same as Bowman Chrome.
Okay. Now explain it to me like I'm 5.
There's two little boxes in a big box.
If you're 5, don't invest in Bowman Best.
If you don't understand it, don't invest. 2021 Bowman Draft comes out Friday. allegedly 425 a jumbo box, 700 a super jumbo box. I only listed the stuff that you'd get out of a jumbo. You'll get 12 packs, 32 cards per pack, so you can get a lot. 200 card base, 200 chrome base parallel set. You're going to get 3 autos. It's going to feature all of the fun names that came out of the 2021 Major League Baseball draft, with the exception of probably couple, 2-3 big names that they'll hold over for Bowman base next year.
I don't think I saw Davis in it.
That's kind of a bummer, right?
I think like I said, I haven't studied it too much in detail yet, but I thought he wasn't in it. But I could be completely wrong on that. So
that's definitely possible. I mean, I know they hold back
because I don't think he was supposed to be the number. I didn't think he was going to be the number 1 pick. They thought.
Well, it's Pittsburgh, so usually it's more frugal.
Yeah,
a lot of times they draft for who they can sign and not who is necessarily the best by their estimation.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I mean, everybody's going to pick up a box of 2021 Topps Transcendent Baseball, which is slated to come out. According to Steel City Collectibles, it was $27,000 a box. You're going to get one box, 106 cards, limited to 95 cases this year. You'll get the complete 50-card Transcendent Icon set, all, of course, numbered out of 95. You'll get one Juan Soto or Ronald Acuna auto. There'll be 50 total autos. And then, as with every year, you'll get the one event invitation card. The guest, as of right now, is to be determined. In years past, we saw Mike Trout, Hank Aaron, Ken Griffey. I don't know who else there was. I couldn't think of them off the top of my head, and I was honestly being too lazy to look. So we'll stay tuned to see if we can figure out who that person is.
It was Harper, I think, 1 year too.
Harper, okay.
Yeah.
Was there Trout? Maybe it was Harper, not Trout.
Trout, I think they both were there. Aaron, I thought, was with the Hall of Fame one, the Hall of Fame edition.
You could be right. Yeah,
same with Griffey, I think
it'll be a fun event. I'm sure there'll be 95 invitees. So, and a lot of those cases are built to be able to get close to your money back. But it's a breaker product, and they Transcendent is what it is. I'm surprised it's lasted this long, honestly. And then also coming out Friday's Panini Immaculate Basketball. Steel City had that at $3,500 a box, 1 pack, 6 cards. You'll get 3 autos and 2 men. So enjoy. And then also releasing this week, 2021 Topps WWE Fully Loaded was slated to drop today. Friday is 2021 Panini Immaculate UFC and 2021 Topps WWE Undisputed. So that's right. We're getting 2 Bowman releases this week and allegedly 2 WWE this week. Rich Frank says Chris Bryant was at 1 as well. So, it'll be big name.
Yeah.
Big
I think
name.
doesn't Topps have to release the WWE this week? Aren't they losing the license?
In Q1, whatever that means. We saw that they're doing away with Topps Living. So that would lead us to believe that they're probably losing it in January. But I haven't seen anything other than the initial announcement that said Panini was taking over in Q1. So I don't know when that transition is, but also you're trying to get into Friday's the end of the quarter. It's the end of the fiscal year. Let's try to shove as much as we could. I was honestly surprised they didn't do like a huge Topps Living WWE dump. What did you guys have in the queue? And just dump 5, 6, 10 of them this week, where the first 2 go to, if you have the subscription, you get the 2 of them, and then you can go buy the rest if you want them. But so all scheduled release dates are, of course, subject to change, but we're current as of this morning. MSRP pricing and product details were gathered from Blowout Cards and Steel City and are subject to change. You can always check out Ryan Cracknell's articles on Beckett.com/news for more details on these releases. What's brewing next week? 2021 Leaf Superlative Hockey is coming out on January 4th, along with Leaf Metal Draft Baseball. And then Jeff, you added on January 5th, Tim Hortons Team Canada. What exactly is that release? What are we anticipating?
Yeah, so it's more or less exclusive to Canadians because, of course, you guys have Dunkin' Donuts. We have Tim Hortons. And unfortunately, the World Juniors were canceled today, so it kind of eliminates the buzz. But I saw it on a commercial, and Tim Hortons, on behalf of Upper Deck, obviously Upper Deck manufacturing them, has a set of Team Canada 100 base, I believe. Wayne Gretzky, McDavid's. There's some pretty good autos as well. And it's like $1 a pack if you buy a coffee. And if you don't buy a coffee, it's like $2 a pack. And like a box is like $200. And the likeliness of hitting something big is obviously minimal, but there are redemptions and everything. And with the demand of the first release a few months ago, I can assure you that this release will be probably bigger. And because the McDavid's and everything, it'll probably sell out within a few weeks. But yeah, mostly Canadian exclusive, cheap, inexpensive. Yep.
I appreciate you adding that because I didn't see that on the release calendar. So also dropping next week, Upper Deck All Elite Wrestling, or AEW, is slated for the 6th, I believe. That's going to be the first release. It's going to be fun to kind of see what
AEW's taken off. Is
that confirmed though? Like it got bumped already once, right?
No, nothing is confirmed. Nothing is ever confirmed until it hits. But it's on the release calendar, slated for January 6th. So take that for what that is. It's slated to be, the first. So, and then 2021-22 Panini NBA Hoops is coming out on the 7th. Again, who knows what gets pushed back? We're still waiting on 2021 Big League Baseball and Topps Platinum anniversary. Mm-hmm. So infield chatter, hobby talk. We are going to start off with the About the Cards 2021 year in review. If you are in the chat, definitely drop any of your favorite products because we want to share this with you as well. We try to get as much feedback as we could. We're going to go topic by topic. Not everything is going to have answers from everybody. We did get some listener and prior guest feedback. Let's start with baseball. Best baseball product. Andrew, what was your best baseball product 2021?
I mean, I think I'd put the same answer every year. I'm a big believer in Gold Label. I think even this year, as much as I hate adding new parallels, the purple parallels were just beautiful, gorgeous parallels. And really all the parallels were really good this year. In years past, they've been a little bit dull with the colors, but they were really, really bright and vibrant. 100-player checklist is easy to get the whole base set. And then you can always do the class 1, 2, 3 if you really want to further your collecting experience along. So I'm a big believer in Gold Label, and that didn't change.
I just got the McGuire Black, class 3 black, for only one I saw. I have not. That was the first one that I saw pop. I was able to get it, and it's like good. It's black. It's the first non-numbered parallel.
The class 3 blacks are more rare than the class 2 blues, for the record.
And I still am missing the class 2 blue. That's the only one I need to complete the black, blue, red, and purple McGuire. Yeah. So
the class
there's
2
one.
The class 3 blacks are actually people don't realize it, but they're actually more rare than some of the blues are.
I'm glad I got one. Yeah, I'm still missing the blue out of 50, the class 2. What about you, Jeff? What was your favorite baseball?
I'm not a big baseball proponent, obviously. I'm more hockey, but I chose Diamond Icons because, like Andrew said, that set is beautiful. Of course, it's a high-end product, but oh my goodness, some of the cards I saw pulled out of that set.
No, absolutely. It's a higher end, so it should be nice. But for me, just like you, Andrew, where you said Gold Label is going to always be your answer for me, Stadium Club is the number one set year in, year out, period. It's just a beautiful set with great parallels, and until somebody comes up and knocks the king off of his throne, it's Stadium Club. Although I did honorable mention to Chrome Black. The parallels in Chrome Black were very sharp. The greens, the purples, and one we're going to mention here in a little bit as well, that new All-Star Rookie Cup. Those are really nice cards. So Steph obviously said Diamond Kings. Duh.
What?
Yeah,
I think he meant Diamond Icons.
At 1986 Astros, Matt McNeil said Top Stadium Club. So Matt and I can high five. He also said then Tribute. He enjoys Tribute, and Tribute's a nice card stock as well. Triple Threads is another one that's really nice. The parallel colors this year they had like aquamarine and citrine and gold and the black onyx out of 50. So Nick Fosspring said Big League Baseball, even though there wasn't one in 2021. He thinks it tells a really nice story about the baseball season, which it would have had we had one. So stay tuned. If you have a favorite baseball, let us know. That's what we had to offer. Best football product, Andrew, what you got?
So you kind of noted I like a very clean, crisp card type thing, not super high end, but not low end. So I always enjoy the limited set. It's a clean set. You get, I think, 2 autos and a mem per box for a reasonable price. It's usually one of the first releases in the seasons too. So that's another reason I like it, because it's one of the first ones that you typically get with the sets. And then I'll give honorable mention. Legacy really stepped up this year. Last year's release was kind of a dud. It was very brown in color last year, but they really toned it down this year. And what I always forget is Luminance. I just thought of that right now. Luminance is a very nice card, kind of like a Stadium Club-esque with full bleed pictures. The names are not very. They're there, but they're not the focal point, and they just kind of let the pictures do the talking, which is why I think Luminance is also another nice one.
I think Rich Frank in YouTube just asked, is the base good on that? I asked him which one, Luminance. Mm-hmm. I'm going to assume that's until he gives me
or limited.
Yeah,
limited. I mean, limited is it's the whole thing with limited is it's a pretty much more of a plain white background. There's a little bit of border work on the side, but it's mainly just a shot of the player in their uniform. And it's a very standard looking card, nothing too fancy, but also it's clean and crisp. They don't try to do too much with it, and I appreciate that.
As a base card should be, right? I mean,
yeah,
there's plenty of parallels that we can collect in higher end products. I mean, if you're just looking for more of a, I don't say lower end because that gives a bad connotation. Just like when we say junk wax, right? People think, it's like, no, junk wax defines an era. It's lower end is the price point. But the base, your standard cards, right? Your baseline cards, they shouldn't be too wild. There's plenty of products out there that can get, wild and crazy. But
yeah, it's very much you either, I will say it's kind of you love it or hate it. And if you like a clean look, then you love it. If you don't, then you don't like it. And I'm not going to argue with you on that. If you don't like a clean card or you don't like a crisp white card, then you're not going to like it. Nothing I can do about that.
I wish there was. I mean,
yeah.
Jeff, what was your favorite football product?
I stick to another high-end product, Flawless Collegiate Football. Again, just for like the baseball and the football products and the basketball, I just go big or go home. Obviously, the card's incredibly nice. Aesthetics is big to me, and just the opportunity to hit like a huge card just appeals to me more than just like a base or a mid-tier box. So I picked Flawless Collegiate.
So Steph and I did not submit a football, and that's more reflective of the fact that we don't collect football. But I will say this: I saw a lot of love over the last couple months for Micah Parsons. And I'm really glad that a question I was going to ask Dub had we had him on this evening was, who might we be looking at in this year's upcoming draft class that's a non-quarterback that might be able to kind of transcend, that stigma that only quarterbacks sell in football. So I'm glad to see Micah. I guess Steph said Prism. He's in the chat. He said Prism, so I stand corrected. He liked Prism allegedly.
Prism draft.
Yeah,
it's even worse.
But it's always nice to see, especially a defensive player, catch some fire in the hobby and be collectible for once, because we just don't see very many of those. I mean, even guys like Myles Garrett and some of the other big names that have been around over the last couple of years. Garrett being a number 1 overall pick, and still the hobby's just like, yeah, okay, whatever. So what about best basketball product, Andrew? What you got?
Well, I mean, just to completely contradict myself here, I'm going to go ahead and go with Origins, which is a more wild design set where you have the wild background and the galaxy and stuff. But that's mainly because they don't, there is no limited basketball I think it's a subset in Chronicles, but that not touching Chronicles. So, Origins, it's a wild design, but at the heart of it too, it's still not it's not that wild. It still has a clean look to it a little bit. And so, again, it's a mid-tier product, 7 cards. You get like 2 autos in a box. It's a fun one to open. Which is why I look at it as from which one would I like to open. I'm not really a big basketball guy, but that's one of the basketball sets that I really enjoy opening myself.
And you also put Crown Royale as another one.
Crown Royal. It's supposed to be Crown Royal. Yeah, and mainly that just stepped up. Again, that was like a legacy. I thought last year's product was kind of a dud, but this year I thought was much better. And every card's a die cut. You can't beat that sometimes. Harkens back to the late 90s when Pacific was doing all those die cuts. Little nostalgia there on that set.
I love the football ones from 2012-ish, 2013, somewhere in there. Yeah, I was helping at an LCS at that time, and that product was really, really hot. So Steph said Contenders Score Retro. Okay. And then Jeff, what did you have to say?
Another high-end product, Immaculate Collegiate. Just, again, the acetate, the high-end, the opportunity to open something big. Sticking with the Immaculates and the Flawlesses for me.
Gotcha. Yeah. Best hockey product. I reached out to Tim Parrish from the Puck Junk podcast and said, hey, I need some help on this one. Just give us a couple of options. He said O-Pee-Chee Platinum, Skybox Metal Universe, and Upper Deck Extended. Steph hopped in with Fleer Metal Universe, which apparently is the same thing as Skybox Metal Universe, allegedly. I didn't get anything from you, Jeff. What was your favorite hockey product of the year?
Yeah, what is this? I didn't get asked about best hockey product. I would say this year was definitely the Cup. Again, high end. It's just like the true RPAs. It's what like hockey fans kind of strive for. It's always about the Cup. It's more or less in the sense of like transcendent. The cases are so limited that like you have to pretty much, if you're lucky, you'll get a case or two, and then everything else is gone. It doesn't really hit like retail shelves that often. Very limited. But yeah, that's and they're typically a year behind. So it's such a high-end product that like last year's like rookies are in this year's the Cup kind of thing. So it's kind of unique in that sense.
No, that's good. I'm glad we got a couple of hockey's what it is. We've talked a lot of hockey this year. Going into 2022, I think we're gonna fix that. We're gonna mute it however we can do that. So best soccer product. Now, first off, I called Andrew and said, hey, you want to be on the show in February? And he's like, yeah. So we're talking about this. And he's like, hey, I saw your list of best products. Why wasn't there any soccer on there? And I'm like, oh dear, there's a reason no soccer was on there. Okay. So we added it for him. And then of course he ends up becoming a pinch hitter off the bench for tonight's show. Lo and behold, here we are talking about soccer. What was the best of the year for you?
Oh, without a doubt, it was Obsidian Soccer. Gorgeous. Anyone who's opened Obsidian baseball, basketball, football knows what the gist of Obsidian is. It's a beautiful black card. Personally, I like the white contra parallels better myself. But the checklist was very solid. They went across multiple leagues, multiple teams, very great checklist, very fun set. And, just Obsidian's just a beautiful card set. And I was glad that they were able to bring it over to soccer this year.
And Jeff, you also said Obsidian.
Yeah, I think Andy took my answer, definitely. But whatever he said, I agree. Just that acetate, amazing.
Ben said Obsidian because he likes the what would you say, Andrew? He likes the black and the cardstock and the Steph said LOL with an exclamation mark. I concur, Steph. What is soccer? Explain it to me like I'm 5. You also said Chrome Merlin.
Yeah, so Merlin was a set that was released in the mid 90s, I want to say. And so they brought it back this year in the Champions League. Very nice, very well printed, very thick cardstock. And again, it's the Champions League. So you're literally taking the best teams of the best. And it kind of was announced kind of a last second release. And it came out and it was just beautiful, just a beautiful card set. And then the throwback aspect of it, I think, was a nice touch as well. I hope they don't do it again next year, but it was fun for this year.
Gotcha. Real quick, Jeff, before we move on to the next topic, Rich Frank asked if the cup hockey cards hold their value.
Yeah, I saw that comment. I would say they easily do, especially the higher end cards. There's a lot of upside to anything that can easily break out. Like if you had them, you could have easily obtained like a McDavid RPA back in the day for super cheap, and now it's like 10 to 20 times its value. But even the lesser known players, you can't find them obviously because they're out of 99, and they have usually gorgeous patches and they have autographs. And because they have a lower price point, people will take them, like collectors will want them. And if there's only 99 available, then obviously there's not many to go around. So yes, I would say the cup does definitely hold their value, but they're very expensive to obtain just in general. Like a box is like 6 cards, 8 cards, whatever maybe.
Yeah. The cup is comparable to National Treasures, football,
Sure.
and basketball in that that's the RPA you want.
Yep. And as soon as Panini like Immaculate or Flawless increased in price because of the explosion within the hobby, like you could easily see that the cup was always down. The cup was always around like let's say 15 to 2,500 Canadian. And as soon as like Flawless and Immaculate kind of gained even more traction and increased ever so slightly, like the cup raised to like 2,000, and then like now you can't even find it. So people are realizing there's a discrepancy between like high-end hockey and then like high-end football and basketball, in that like it's further increasing the cup as well.
Arbitrage. All right, cool. Best non-sports product was another addition after speaking with Andrew on the phone and being scolded. He's like, why do you guys just have this why not call it about the baseball cards? And so after I got my lecturing, what was the best non-sports product in your opinion, Mr. Andrew?
Star Wars Chrome Galaxy. Star Wars Galaxy has been a set that's been released, I think, 3 or 4 times over the past few years. And what they did was they took the best sets, chromed them out. I think I said a set your way, did I not?
You did. That was actually really sharp. The pictures were beautiful. A lot of what they chose to include as far as the illustrations on the different cards. I put away one of the 2 sets you sent me, and I was like, all right, that's a really nice Star Wars set. And then the second one was the Chrome, and I was like, okay, I get that. Yeah, I get the love for this. I mean, Star Wars Chrome, and not just this one, but in years past, some of the sets that I just went and picked up for cheap to share with my son Bentley have since something that hopefully would get him. I started as a young kid getting Star Wars cards before I really got into the hobby, and it's something we can share with the Mandalorian and now the Book of Boba Fett, and we went back and started watching the original ones together. And man, those Chrome cards though are sharp. They're just a good product. So, Jeff, what did you choose for the best non-sports?
I don't know if you consider F1 a sport or not, obviously, but I'll consider it a non-sport. But I chose Topps Dynasty Formula 1. These things, again, high-end product. You could have easily got them for pre-orders within like 1,500, and now because of like Netflix and Drive to Survive, it's like doubled in price. And Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen are going off, and it's bananas. But yeah, Formula 1, I've always enjoyed it. I've watched it for years upon years upon years. I live close to Montreal, so I've gone to a few of the F1 races in Montreal. And I just think the product in general, it's just the Dynasty in general, is gorgeous. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous.
As Steph said, Magic the Gathering Kaldheim?
Yep.
Okay, whatever that is. So that's neat. Best.
I will give a shout out to the Pokemon Celebrations set, the 25-year anniversary set, because they They basically took the best cards from all the years and put them back together. So that was pretty cool to see.
Everything you said there was English. I understood everything you said and understood not a word of it at the same time. So, best overall product for me, again, Stadium Club, and best overall product doesn't matter what we're talking, sports, non-sports, if you could have one product this year and one product alone. And I will say this too. I hate Alan and I don't say I hate Alan and Ginter. I'm just not a big fan of it. I'm more of a Gypsy Queen guy, right? And I wanted last year to hate Alan and Ginter Chrome so bad.
Couldn't do
and it was so nice. And this year it came out again, and it was so nice. And damn you, Tops. You got me on that one. That was a nice product. But Stadium Club for me, Steph said Diamond Kings. Jeff went with another uber expensive product.
Oh, so yeah, I went with Bowman Transcendent, obviously similar to the one that's coming out, but I'm not sure if that will be tactically this year, if it doesn't get delayed or anything. But yeah, obviously gorgeous product. I love the concept. I'm surprised other manufacturers don't do similar sets or cases or whatever you want to call them. And yeah.
And then Andrew, you didn't submit one for best overall. What you got?
I was going to say Star Wars Masterworks, but it got delayed until next year. So technically it won't count. And also I haven't seen it, so I can't say that. But I'm going to go with Gold Label. At the end of the day, that's the one. When I buy a case from my distributor, I don't break it. I open it because I love it. That's my set that I open, and I don't share that set with anybody.
That's awesome. It's great that you like Gold Label. Obviously, Stadium Club. Steph with Diamond Kings. When you got a product, you got a product. You like it. You anticipate it every year. At the beginning of 2020, January, we started seeing the mock-ups in the Stadium Club the Stadium Club base. McGuire was from the Bash Brothers poster of he and Canseco, and it was obviously photoshopped where it was just cropped out the Canseco part, and I was just like, all right, June 24th, 2020 on my calendar was circled, and it didn't come out on the 24th, I don't think, but it came out in June, and it was just like, God, when I saw that card, and I'm like, I don't care what it's going to cost to build the parallel set. I told my dad, I was like, hey, you want some early Christmas gifts? We can do them right now in June. Stadium Club is just a gorgeous product, and when you got your set, you got your set. Steph's a Diamond King guy. We know that, so... So worst overall product, or also known as the Panini Chronicles baseball category. Jeff, interesting enough, what you said contradicts what Tim Parrish said as was one of the best hockey products, which Upper Deck Extended. Why did you have that as one of your worst overall products of the year?
All right, Tim, we got to talk, Tim. So Upper Deck Extended, they've never done an extended series prior to this. They're so familiar. Everyone's familiar with their Series 1s and Series 2s, but you can only accommodate so many true rookies. Like, I'm surprised Upper Deck Extended didn't have my rookie card. That's how much I value that set. And based off going to the Sports Card Expo in Toronto, the Upper Deck had a redemption program. You had to buy a box or a case of Upper Deck Extended. Guess why? It was the only product, because there was so much of it made. You opened the amount of product they probably manufactured of Extended in comparison to Series 1 and Series 2, and there's probably a reason why Series 1 for this year is being postponed already. But my goodness, Tim, we got to talk on this on a more serious level, because Upper Deck Extended, I hope Upper Deck realizes, yeah, sure, it probably made them so much money, and they don't really care about the rest. Obviously, if it makes money, you keep it. But I hope they reconsider it next year. And I hope they make the Series 1 and Series 2 more defined, and they allow collectors to actually save money long-term, in the sense of not every 3 months releasing a product, especially a hockey-related product.
What I liked about your answer, having that as the worst overall product when Tim had it as one of his best hockey releases of the year, was the fact that it shows the spectrum of collectors and hobbyists. You have people that really enjoy a product. I just mentioned, Ginter not being one of my personal favorites, but there are people out there that super collect the entire master set and spend nothing but money on Ginter every year. Stefan's wife, Angela, is a very big fan of Ginter. And I like that, Jeff, you're on one side, Tim's on another side.
Well, that being said, I have to be respectful. He might consider it the best hockey product strictly because of the price point. So if he has that rebuttal, maybe I'd consider it because it has decreased so much in comparison to like Series 1 and Series 2. To some, it might not be affordable, but for extended, it might become more affordable now. So if that's his case, maybe, but I honestly don't think that's his case. But we'll see one day.
I love the contrast of love it or hate it. Somewhere in between, we all have our own personal preferences, regardless of what that is. The collectability factor, the price point, et cetera, et cetera. So I like that there's two stark contrasts here for the same product, regardless of what it just happened to be extended series. It could have been anything. So Steph had chosen Contenders. Andrew, I saw yours and I was like, I know that's not a very good product. What was your choice for the worst overall product?
So initially I was going to do Project 70, but I thought that's just too easy. So I went with Patches and Plates. I can't stand it. I think it makes no sense. They're literally taking printing plates from other releases and putting them in this set. And it's just like, why?
Brett, theoretically,
Why?
printing plates that should be packed out with its own release.
Correct.
For collectors to collect.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm going for a rainbow and some people include the 4 printing plates as part of the rainbow, if I can't even get that out of the release that it's supposed to come from, right? I chose the Topps T206. Last year was 5 waves. This year it was 10. There was no need to have that many more. The first parallel after the base would be Piedmont. The second was the Sweet Caporal, except for in Wave 7, which had the Tolstoy, which happened to be the Mark McGuire one. So it was a completely different one. But what really irritated me was like when I first saw the checklist and a fellow collector was helping me complete, my set, he's like, I'll get you whatever I got. And then you can go get whatever else you need on the secondary. I was like, hey, that's awesome. Cut me a really good deal on him. And, Jan Gomes, Washington Nationals. Then he gets released and he's like, hey, it's an Oakland A, because he had come over at the trade deadline. Rube Waddell, Philadelphia A, comes out and he's with, the Cleveland Spiders or whatever. And then was it the Naps? And then he's like, Simon Nichols is an A. And I'm just like, oh dear Lord. It's like, I get Jan Gomes and I'm just going to use the A's as an example because that's what I collect. So I'm familiar with the checklist because of that. I get that because he was a July trade deadline acquisition, but okay. Simon Nichols and Rube Waddell have been dead for a considerable amount of time. You should be able to at least get the guys that are, your legacy players correct on whatever team you choose for them to be on. Those checklists were an absolute disaster. And Wave 9 was the only minor league one, which I know, last year they had one of the 5 waves. I think there's quite a few collectors that were anticipating at least 2 waves being minor league based, just based on that. And again, because it's a print to order on demand product, the Piedmont and the Sweet Cap and the Sovereign backs and Carolina Brights and Old Mill, all of these different backs have different print runs from wave to wave, with the exception of the ones that are actually stamped, or I believe like the cycle backs, I think are always out of 25. And it's just, anyway, I like T206. I love the tobacco cards, but if they don't bring this product back, they did away with Total this year and extended 206 to a 2X size. And it's like, stop, guys. The biggest surprise of the year, we're going to go ahead and just kind of say the consensus was the Fanatics announcement. So obviously that got us all. Nobody could have, the best psychics in the world wouldn't have saw that one coming. So Nick Vosbrink, Steph, I think everybody was caught off guard. I mean, that was a huge hobby day, and it was right on the heels of the PWCC and eBay announcement, if I'm not mistaken.
I just gave away mine. Yeah,
it's okay, but I think that was like on a Tuesday, and then Thursday.
Yeah,
it's like literally we have one of the largest stories we've had in quite some time if I'm not mistaken, I think that's what it was. And then like Fanatics was like, hold our beer, right?
Yeah.
So Andrew, yours was PWCC.
Yeah. And it did get overshadowed, by Fanatics a couple days later. But yeah, I mean, I didn't think that they would ever do that. That eBay would finally pull the trigger, and they did. So I was shocked about that.
Yeah, Jeff, what was your biggest surprise of the year?
Well, more or less, my biggest surprise was Tracy Hackler recently mentioned that he's leaving Panini. I don't think it was that easy. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff happening behind the scenes. I think Panini is unfortunately in trouble. I wouldn't be surprised, as many people are commenting, that Fanatics will likely be purchasing the rights to Panini in general, and maybe Topps, who knows. But that'll likely happen in the next year or two if it does happen. But I think there's more to it that would be I wouldn't be surprised if like Panini kind of falls apart. Tracy was monumental to how they became Panini and how they've stayed relevant within the hobby. And him leaving to join Kentucky Roadshow, I feel as though that's just kind of like cracks are forming within Panini. I wouldn't be surprised to see more people leaving. I wouldn't be surprised if Topps employees, for instance, get poached or whatever it may be. But I'd obviously relate that to Fanatics in general.
Since you mentioned it, if you peruse the YouTube, Sports Card Radio, Colin Teddards had a really good video earlier this week. It's about a 16-minute video. First off, my best buddy Jeff Wilson, Colin poses the question: is Sports Card Investor a fraud? That's about the first 8 minutes. The second part of the video, after he outlines his thoughts on that subject, he talks about Tracy Hackler leaving. Very good video, even if you only want to watch the second half on his thoughts on Tracy, because he basically says that Tracy and pretty much everybody else with Topps and Panini don't bring anything to the table as far as being innovative, and he thinks that none of them are thinking they're going to be able to see jobs with Fanatics, even if Topps or Panini were to become part of the Fanatics family. And so the writing is on the wall that all of these individuals probably should brush up on their resume a little bit and start looking for other opportunities, whether they're within the hobby or not. You're not going to get a lifeline from Fanatics. So check out the Sports Card Radio video on that if that's your thing. I know, Colin is he is who he is, and sometimes
Yeah, I think he's more becoming a heel. The Tracy Hackler comment was kind of savage. But again, I think that's more playing his heel aspect and just everybody's a fraud and everything is breaking down. But if you, like you said, he did mention though he is stepping away from the sports card industry at the moment and investing in other areas of life and such.
Yeah, I mean, like with anything, sometimes you have to see through the character of some of what content creators portray to really dissect and get to the meat and potatoes of what is being said. So it's a good video. It's worth the 16-minute investment of time.
Definitely.
But just since you brought up the Tracy Hackler and you get his thoughts, a different perspective. I put.
Did you just use the word investment on this podcast?
I did. I figure we
got to tag it.
I figure we use we use hockey, other made up words. We use soccer. So, I mean, just right now we're throwing anything against the wall. But hey, investment of time is a real use of that word. It is economically sound. So I actually put All-Star Rookie Cup as a biggest surprise. That just came out of nowhere recently. It's a really good product. We mentioned it earlier under the best baseball products. And I really didn't want this just to be, Fanatics, of course, is really the only answer for this category. Mm-hmm. But figured why not throw out a product? So our favorite card of the year, Andrew, what was yours?
I went with the Kaprizov Young Guns. Went with the hockey card. I don't like the Wild, but you got to respect it. And it's a big rookie card for a big rookie. And it kind of set in motion a big rush to Upper Deck hockey, which I was pretty happy to see.
Did Stefan pay to say that?
He did not. No, not enough at least.
but Steph also went with the Kaprizov Young Guns. Jeff, what'd you go with?
I went with 2019-2020 Upper Deck, the Cup, Cale Makar rookie auto patch out of 99. As mentioned, those are like the key, the Cup RPAs out of 99. I think one recently sold for like 3,000 Canadian. So Cale Makar obviously is being seen a lot recently. He's a defenseman who scores more goals. Let me remind you, Andrew, more goals than Kaprizov at the moment, and he's a defenseman. Thank you very much. But yeah.
And even though it's 1920, as you mentioned earlier, they're about a year
Correct.
behind, so it was released in 2021 as a result. Okay, no, that makes sense. Good circling back to a previous comment. So Matt McNeil went with the Top Stadium Club Cal Ripken. I went with the Top Stadium Club McGuire, and I know that's a homer pick, but you know, if you see the picture, you know, he's in his traditional batting stance. He's waving the bat towards his ankles, and the background is out of focus. And for me, when I saw that card, as much as I love the 2020, I had a real connection with the 2021 because it's like, that is my childhood. How many times did I see that stance with McGuire over the 10 years that, you know, that he was with the A's? Just, it took me back to my childhood, much like last year's did with the Bash Brothers poster pictures. So also, on a personal note, the Topps Living Starling Marte by Jared Kelly. And the reason I personal favorite, you know, we ask everybody when they're the first time guest, what one card would you own? That is on a very short list of special cards for me, because after he did it, after we had him on the show, and I was like, I can't wait to own that card. He DMs me and says, what's your address? And he ends up sending me one autographed, but he didn't send me one. He sent me 3 of them. And one was for my 7-year-old Bentley, and one was for my 4-year-old Jonathan. So I have 3 of them. We all have one autographed by Jared. All of a sudden, that becomes a very special and sentimental card for me. And I mean, it's an incredibly, I mean, the card itself is ridiculously gorgeous. Let's just get that out there. But yeah, so then that's what makes it fun. Is it's not a card I would have thought would have made this list. But because of the personal connection to it, it shoots up as one of my all-time favorite cards now. So I appreciate Jared for that generosity. So favorite guest, Andrew, you did not submit one, and you're not allowed to say yourself.
Well, if I'm not in it, then I don't watch the episode. Is how it works, isn't it? No. It's got. I'm blanking on his name. The Upper Deck one.
Jason Mashra.
Yeah.
Okay. Jeff, you're not allowed to say yourself. What was your favorite episode?
Well, first off,
Or
I can
favorite
say
guest.
myself. And for
Okay.
everyone watching, there you go. Where is it? Right here. There you go. I'm your favorite guest. But I would say probably Jason Mashra. Obviously retires to Upper Deck, and he's a good guy. I'm not Carlin as well. There's a lot of good guests that you have on, but anything relating to hockey specifically, I'm a fan of, and of course, I'm a fan of myself. So there you go.
Yeah, I was going to wait for the end of the show to thank the two of you, along with James Kikowski, for hopping in the week that I was out after I had a medical scare. But now that you mention it, whenever we talk hockey, I dislike both of you incredibly for aiding Stefan in his hockey takeover that week. You guys were both accomplices, culprits, and lump of coal in your post-dated Christmas stocking. No, it's we had so many incredible guests. It's so hard to pick. Steph went with our good buddy Nick Wasika and the aforementioned Jared Kelly. Matt McNeil went with Joey Shiver, Dumb Mentality, who was going to be on the show this evening. And then Nick Vosbrink went with John Grachowski. Just real quick, Andrew, you mentioned, you don't watch the show if you're not on it, as a tongue in cheek. When my daughter Savannah was about 4, she was playing Hi-Ho Cherry-O with my mom. And whenever my mom wasn't paying attention, Savannah would cheat and take cherries off the board. And she got caught. And my mom's like, Savannah, you can't cheat. And she throws her hands up in the air. She walks away. She goes, Grandma, if I can't cheat, I'm not playing. And so just it reminded me of it based on the way you had said it. It sounded like my 4-year-old daughter. My favorite guest, 1A, 1B, it's hard to pick out of two for much different reasons. One, obviously, being Jason Mashira was such an incredible guest and generous with his time and for what he does in the hobby. And then the other one is from a completely different spectrum, which was the legendary Dr. James Beckett for joining us and giving us an hour of his time. There's no way I could have chosen between the two and said, it's like the desert island. What movie or television show would you take if you could only take one? It's like, well, I'm taking The Office and The West Wing, and whoever's putting me on the desert island is just going to have to deal with it. I'm not choosing. So we appreciate both Jason and James for their time. Best episode doesn't have to be the same one. Andrew, what was your favorite episode, assuming that you watched more than just the ones that you happen to be in, which was quite a few this year?
Yeah. No, it was with Jason. I mean, he was really fun interview. He stayed on the whole time. Like we
didn't know that.
That was just crazy. Like how do you get someone, the owner or the CEO of one of the big three card companies, to just hang out with you? Like, that was just for nothing else. I mean, he gave a good interview too, but just for the fact that he wanted to stay on the whole time with you was really cool.
And honestly, he stayed on for about 45 minutes after the show too, just talking with Steph and I about different things that happened during the show and just kind of follow up some stuff. And it was just incredibly amazing when right before the show, I'm like, all right, Jason, we got some questions for you. If, they're just more guides, if stuff comes up organically, like we talked about Upper Deck documentary, it's like, we'll go with whatever comes up. And he's like, I'm staying for the whole show. Okay.
Yeah.
Like the whole show, like hobby talk and everything. He's like, yeah, he goes, I'm all yours tonight. And like, so obviously that was my best episode of the year. Not to take anything away from Dr. James Beckett, but what a fun episode. And the fact that he stayed. Steph's answer was the next one. Nick Vosbrink said episode 180 with Jason, the one where you talked about Upper Deck documentary. So again, not on the show notes. But we had him on there. He mentioned it, and we were going to drive that one home and ask him why. Why were you guys the way that you were? And that was a fun topic. So before we get into the remainder of the show, after our year in review, what is your biggest anticipation, guys, for the 2020 hobby year?
Yeah, I'm just looking forward to seeing what happens with the whole Fanatics Topps Panini next step. I mean, something's got to happen. What is it? And to me, that's it's really not a 2022 thing, because it kind of, I don't really see it having any ramifications until at least the year after. But just that announcement, something has to happen, and so that's what I'm most not necessarily excited for, but that's what I'm waiting for more than anything else.
What you got, Zelski?
Yeah, to piggyback off what Andrew said, I'm kind of excited for I guess the books to fall in that area, but at the same time, on a positive / negative, I think something will come of like Upper Deck, in the sense of like obviously a lot of stuff is being pushed back. I feel as though there's more cancellation. So how does that impact like the hockey market? Because obviously they're more catered to the hockey market. So I think as a whole, the industry will see, I think, some large talking points come like quarterly almost in the next few years, whether it be companies, new investments, sales of companies, whatever it may be. I just think it's literally going to be like quarterly, and you're going to have companies like rebounding the next quarter to compete against whatever may come up, or whatever occurred the quarter prior. So I'm just excited in general for like larger news to pop up.
Gotcha. Yeah. Nick Vosbrink says, let's just have a baseball season. That definitely be interesting to see how that impacts the baseball card market, both old and new, vintage and modern and everything in between. And if there's no baseball season. So
I will say there's one other thing I'm also excited for is
Gold label.
Soccer. Well, always. That's not year specific, but this year specific soccer. The World Cup is coming in October, November. The U.S. is. I'm cautiously optimistic that they're looking strong, and I want to see what they're going to do with these young kids.
And
It's going to be a fun.
It's golf
fun.
or.
Well, they have a World Cup of golf, but I'm talking about the soccer version.
Whatever that foreign word is.
Yeah.
I follow a lot of the supply chain issues on a micro and macro level, just from the economic standpoint and how politics plays into that and whatnot. I'm really interested to see how many products really do get canceled directly related to supply chain issues, or as much as we can foretell that was the main reason behind this stuff getting pushed around or canceled outright. So stay tuned. Good talk, guys. Good year in review. I think overall it was a fairly good year. So here's to 2022. We'll see what it brings. And remember, Topps has a significant debt payment due in April of 2022. So how does that play into perhaps a sublicense with Fanatics? Maybe a long-term agreement there, or just what most likely is going to happen is a downright purchase. So. Santa Claus offerings. Brett Horta at Sick Patch Bro. He is a self-proclaimed Tim Lincecum super collector. So fitting that these cards made it home. We all get great stuff, hopefully card related at Christmas time, our birthdays, things like that. Brett got not one, but 3 one-of-one Tim Lincecum from Museum Collection for Christmas. So one was a bat, one was a long tag, I believe. Just amazing one-of-ones of a player that he might be on a very short list of player collectors. And for those 3 one-of-ones to go home, so to speak, is awesome. We don't always get to share in that excitement and enjoyment. So good job, Brett, and well done to whoever in Brett's life helped get those cards home. So,
and whoever did, I like Will Clark. So.
Yeah. Can we submit our Christmas list as well? Can you talk to our significant others about how we go about that? And good job, though. That's awesome. So how about a little Project 70 to end the year? Since it's nowhere close to ending, via CRT_sports cards. Chris Torres, who's been on the show before. Chris has been doing an exceptional job tracking both Project 2020 and now Project 70 on his website and YouTube channel. Chris tweeted out, quote, "What could have been." As of the tweet the other day, there was 240 cards remaining to complete the 1,020 card set as it was presented to us. According to his numbers, he goes, that works out to an average of approximately 4 cards remaining for each of the 51 artists. Also, according to Chris, 15 artists owe more than 6 cards at this point in order to hit the magic 1,020. So he also asks, as most of us have, will this inevitably end this set early? And Topps tweeted out, no more P70 cards in 2020. They're coming back allegedly on January 3rd, 2022. So it's now Project 70/71, right?
Same as the Chrome Platinum anniversary, right?
Big League Baseball.
It is what it is at this point. At this point, they can't stop it. They got to finish it out. I'm sure there's contractual obligations with these artists, but
it's tough to say. With I jokingly put out, I'm not doing the math to find out if they're doing 2 cards per day with the business days, what date it would end, and I think we were looking at around July 4th, but that was also anticipating cards being released both last week and this week. At least a couple of days.
It'd be going into August at this point if it were 2 per business day.
Okay. Project 70 is a mess, and, Topps has got to, at least behind closed doors, know that with all the IP issues that they've had. So we don't want to dwell too much on that. It's what it is. Check out Chris, though, for some information on that as he keeps tracking it. It's he's done a really, really good job for people that are actually interested in that program. So here's a fun story via the Associated Press. So it's a little political, but not really. Kinda. The state of Ohio Chamber of Commerce produced a 99 deck of trading cards. So 99 cards featuring all of the sitting state lawmakers. Now that's cool enough for us to enjoy politics, right? Those of us geeks out there that are political people, a 99 card set. A guy named Adam Headley. He's a political aide and collector of many different types of political memorabilia. Got his hands on one. And then all of a sudden, with them in hand, he goes, I'm going to get all of these signed. All 99 of them. Let's do it. So for him, I mean, he works as a political aide. He's right there. So he's going to work alongside some of the individuals, probably directly for at least one of them, I would imagine, that are out of these 99. So he cruised, according to the AP article, to about 60 of the signatures because he works through most of them and runs into them just, in his day-to-day routine. He eventually got all 99 of them signed, despite some being more challenging, stating that most everyone was a really good sport about signing his now complete autograph set. So I thought, how cool would it be to have how cool would it be to have Adam on Twitter? Okay, scratch that. How cool would it be to have Adam on our show? So I reached out to him on Twitter. I invited him on the show. He's scheduled to join Steph, Andrew, and I on February 2nd, 2022 to discuss the awesome accomplishment. We're going to try to keep it as non-political as we can. It's just really cool that, he's a memorabilia collector, gets these cards in his hand, and he's like, I'm going to get these signed. We want to kind of hear, how do you start with that? You go to your boss and say, I need the first one signed, one down, 98 to go. How long did it take him? And what was the coolest place? I had visions of like Jim Carrey in Ace Ventura, where he's trying to get a hold of all the rings, and he's outrunning alongside somebody using chloroform, and in the bathroom with somebody, and in the steam room, and it'd be really interesting. So hopefully Adam doesn't have to reschedule. It'd be really fun in a month to talk to him. So what are your guys' thoughts on this?
Well, speaking of politics, not to get too far ahead, what are your thoughts, Ben, on the 1099 coming into effect very shortly?
So the 1099 has always been so what you're stating is going into 2023 for the 2022 tax year, people are going to have to report all income sources over $600, all e-commerce sites like eBay, Amazon, Mercari, otherwise anything sold through there. You'll have to, they are now going to issue a 1099. Mm-hmm. A lot of people are freaking out. You should have always been reporting your income from all sources. Again, this is not tax advice. Always consult your personal tax professional, whether you use, TurboTax, Tax Act, otherwise, or go through Jackson Hewitt and H&R Block, or just a private tax professional. If you're in the high dollar end breaking and selling on eBay, you should register as an LLC and issue a profit and loss. That way you can write off the expenses to offset some of the income. In a lot of cases, people are going to be in the red. But yeah, people are freaking out. It's like, it's always been the way. You should have always been doing this. eBay's not required. PayPal's not required to send you a 1099. I mean, they should be. As a legitimate company, they should be. But if they don't, you still are obligated by law, if we're just basing it off the letter of the law, which brings up a whole nother thing that populated this week on Twitter with the IRS. It's on their books that if you steal something from somebody and sell it. So if I go into Jeff's house and steal something valued over $600, I have to report that as income if I sell it to a pawn shop. Unless I give it back to you, Jeff, in the same tax year. So if I steal it tonight and I change my mind and I come back Saturday like, hey, look, I know I stole this jewelry after I broke into your house, but I really don't want to report it on my taxes. So here you go. It's back. So yes, it's technically on the IRS's books that you have to report income from stealing something from another person.
Do you think it'll affect the sports card industry a lot, though, with it being like mandatory now, and with eBay like obviously selling you it regardless?
I always got the 1099 from them. I didn't know that they weren't doing it.
PayPal wasn't going to do it unless you had the 200 transactions and $20,000.
Yeah.
Now it's anything over $600. I think it's going to have much larger ramifications on the fact that it opens up access to our personal finances. Outside, that gets a little bit more into the political side of things and how exposed we are on a personal level between us and the friendly federal government. That's a whole nother ball of wax for a different podcast, but I do think it will affect it in the sense that I think you will start seeing more people register as an LLC and change how they organize and categorize and track their finances. Will we see that? No, it's just on a personal level, but I bet more and more people will, as they should. Because remember, as an LLC, it protects you, your personal assets, if something were to happen. So if a big breaker, when any of the big boys were to get sued for any reason, if they're registered as an LLC or an S corp, they have protections under those provisions that allow them not to, you can sue them for everything they're worth and put them in bankruptcy, but you can't go take their house. You can't go take their grocery money. If you're doing it as a sole proprietor, then yes, they could come after they could wash you out financially. So LLCs offer more protection. But again, if you want to get serious about that, you're always welcome to reach out to me or anybody else that deals with finance. But at the end of the day, because there are different state provisions and state laws, it's always wise to talk to somebody local that fully understands the different state by state laws. So, but yeah, it doesn't pertain to the 2021 tax season, but do it anyway. Prepare. It's always better to be better, because what happens if you get audited, they're going to look back for multiple years, up to 7. So I'm pretty sure it's up to 7. So it's just be careful. When you don't know, always ask somebody that's smarter in that realm, that's more educated and experienced. And if you got to pay them to give that advice, I mean, we all have, we pay doctors, right? Lawyers, plumbers, accountants. That's what they're there for. They're professionals,
So what you're saying is, if you need hockey advice, come see me, but don't go see Stefan. Got it?
That's exactly what I'm saying. In fact, we should get him a t-shirt that says that, if you need hockey advice, at Zelski.com/net HTTP /. So when athletes do the right thing via Packers quarterback Kurt Benkert, we've all met celebrities and athletes, and some meet our expectations while plenty of others don't. And we'd like to think, given the opportunity to be famous, we wouldn't, let the spotlight cloud our humble nature and humility. Kurt Benkert got a letter from a fan named Blake asking him to sign a baseball or a football card, excuse me. Kurt's tweet said, "I don't normally post like this, but one hit me in the feels." It was a handwritten letter by somebody who was probably about 8-9 years old. It says, "Can you please sign this card and put to Blake, never give up?" So Kurt did sign it, sent it back to Blake. I have to say, it's nice to see an athlete of any stature, regardless of whether or not they're at the top of their sport or somewhere. I mean, there's only 96 quarterback spots. Kurt's got one of them, to see him do the right thing by his or her fans. It's good. Don't forget where you came from. And here's a young man who obviously looks up to Kurt and reached out. And I'm glad, even if we never got that story, it's good to see an athlete do the right thing. Okay, let's move on.
Yep.
So let's pivot to a conversation real quick about NFT's Top Shots, specifically the Top Shot moments. It's a little bit of lengthy. I'm going to read a couple of things. This came via Paul_Lesko, right? This is a lengthy thread on Paul's timeline with screenshots of the lawsuit, plenty of information to dissect. So please feel free to head over to Paul's timeline on Twitter to read through it all if this is something that interests you. Just a couple of the highlights from Paul. Dapper Labs has been sued by a plaintiff whose name I don't have handy, alleging that Dapper Labs the moments, the NFTs, are illegal securities. So who is Dapper Labs? They control the Flow blockchain and Flow tokens that are used by Moments NFTs. The lawsuit starts on June 15th, 2020, when Dapper Labs started offering NBA Top Shot moments. There had something to do with the beta and then like the open source ones. So because people are buying these NFTs as quote unquote art, and they're banking on these quote unquote investments increasing in value, the lawsuit is basically alleging that they're no longer considered art, but investable securities, and should be registered as such with the SEC for government oversight. Okay, because Dapper did not allow Moments owners from withdrawing their funds for months. Dapper has been accused of unlawfully propping up the Moments markets, or in other words, market manipulation. The lawsuit states that Dapper created its own cryptocurrency instead of relying on Bitcoin and Ethereum. The biggest issue, all of this, if we just sum it up with a nice little bow, is that if these are found to be securities and not forms of art, then there are people making a ton of money that are not following the rules of securities, which is, wait for it, illegal. So stay tuned, but you can go to Paul's lengthy thread outlining things more in depth. So I know there's a lot to dissect there, and not everybody is a fan of NFTs and how they work and whatnot. But basically, as forms of art, the rules and regulations and things you have to abide by, that burden of, it's a lot lower. That bar is really, really low. So this lawsuit is basically going to turn the NFT, at least the sports related ones, upside down if these are seen to be securities. We know Upper Deck, Topps, Panini are all offering NFTs or plan to increase that going into the next calendar year. This could change the whole landscape of sports hobby card related NFTs.
Well, I would say first off, like I was into Top Shot early. I got out because it was such a disaster. Obviously, I made money, like Paul said. A lot of people made money if you were in early. But I would say, to clarify, Upper Deck is not an NFT yet. I wouldn't consider EPAC NFTs. I know they don't consider them true NFTs. I know they're getting in. I know Jason spoke of that, but I wouldn't consider EPAC NFTs. And I don't know how far away they are from getting into NFTs. But at the same time, Panini is in NFTs. And don't forget, though, Panini is losing their license. So they have an easy cop-out if need be. But yes, I think the NFT market will get messy. And if it does, Panini has an out. Upper Deck just might not release it. Who knows how soon this will come to court and be looked at. But NFTs are definitely messy, and we'll see what happens.
I don't fully understand. So they're saying basically that these are securities but not art because people are buying them with the intention that they will go up in value and make money. Correct?
So
how's that any different than buying a Leonardo da Vinci painting, buying it thinking that the value will only go up as well?
See, because I think and again, I have not read the whole lawsuit, so I'm not 100% in tune with exactly what is being alleged and that fine line between art and securities. But, if you buy a Da Vinci, you're buying it not solely for it to increase in value. You're parking your money with it, but you're buying it because it's Da Vinci. You want to hang it on the wall. You want, to be able to own it, stick it in a museum perhaps, right? The thing with these NFTs is it was being seen as, everybody. I mean, they were talking about it on the local radio. They are like, we have no idea what we're doing, but I know that I bought some. The guys are talking like way above their head, right? I mean, these guys are like, yeah, I'm buying it, I'm gonna sell them, I'm making money. And there's a lot of money to be made. You should join too. And I think that's what it was everybody was buying with the intent for these. You're not buying it as art. It's not an investment in a Da Vinci with the idea that, it's always going to hold its value. It's always going to be a Da Vinci or a Picasso, and I think that's where the lawsuit's alleging are these art or are these just a security that you're buying at X, hoping that they'll increase to Y or be well beyond Y, sell for Z, and profit. And then the second thing was, and that's the big thing, was that they were holding people's money for months. and they're creating
cashing out took forever.
False demand. And the thing is, my grandpa was a retired CPA, and the best tax advice he ever gave me is that he's like, you should always do your taxes quarterly. He goes, I'm not saying file your taxes quarterly, do them quarterly. He goes, because once you get a 3-month snapshot of what your federal withholdings are, he goes, you can adjust up or down. He goes, you never want to owe the IRS money, but you never want to return either, at least not a significant return. Most people get excited in April. Oh, I've got $2,000. I got $5,000 coming back. That's going to be my Christmas money. I'm going on a vacation. And he's like, that's the worst thing you can do, because what you've done is you've given a 12-month interest-free loan to the IRS. He goes, you should have that money in your bank account working for you right now, because you can have it to buy whatever you want on a daily basis, or you can invest on your own. Don't give that money to the IRS. He goes, so do your taxes quarterly to find out what your tax obligation is going to be and adjust for the remaining 9 months. Do it again at 6 months and see if it's adjusted enough and keep going from there. And whether you do that or not is beside the point. The thing was, we were giving our money to these people. They hold our money, and they were making God knows how much money off of the collective sum of our money in their accounts for this art, which is borderline securities. So, there was quotes in the tweet where somebody, Ivan had tweeted this out and watched the breaks. One of the quotes in the Paul Lesko thread said, and I quote, the quotes from the moment's owners are provided to show these NFTs are treated as securities. For example, one owner stated, these are investments. That LeBron that I bought for $208,000 was worth 7 figures right away. So that's where you start to get into the securities aspect of things. Now, Ivan had quote tweeted that, saying, imagine if one day your tweet arguing cards are investments becomes exactly what a lawyer uses to push federal regulation onto cards. I'm going to say this right now. If lawyers ever get into court to try to get federal regulations into this hobby, Ben Wilson will be subpoenaed. His entire Twitter timeline will be dissected. And more than one episode of About the Cards is sure to be used. Specifically, I think it was episode 170 with Jeff Soxie, where there are a lot of very smart, intelligent, insightful people that have argued that cards are not investments. And there have been a lot of people that have argued that they are. And the bottom line is, all of this is free information for lawyers to argue, depending on what side you want to stand on. I can totally see, and I've said this for a long time on the show, that at some point this industry will be regulated, because it just can't. There's too much money flowing, and there's not enough. If the government legalized marijuana, not because they wanted marijuana legalized, because they're like, hey, it's going to be sold anyway, so we might as well have our hand in that honey jar. Let's tax it. And it's like, how much money's in here that's going, and the federal government's not getting any of that. And we're not talking about a few dollars here. We're talking about billions of dollars changing hands every year. I can't see. And if NFTs end up becoming seen as securities, we're going to see government regulation soon. We're already starting to see it in different aspects, like you mentioned, Jeff, with the $600 and the taxes. That's not related to the hobby necessarily, but it's going to impact the hobby considerably in different aspects. Whether we see it or we don't, people are going to start changing, whether they're starting to register at LLCs, and we might honestly see some people bow out and not sell as much, or figure out different ways to move the money around.
Yeah, speaking on NFTs, I think the biggest issue that's forefront is the blockchain. Right, like you said, they're non-regulated, they're non-physical, they're not assets, they're non-governed for all that matter. So, like, people want to see what's happening and they can't. and now issues are occurring in the sense of NBA Top Shot, and now you're going to see other issues with like NFTs going forward. Like, who knows how much money you have in NFTs, but none of that, no one knows, right? So governments want to see all that information. It's not available at the moment, really. And then even some people want to see that information, and it's like non-governed and not available. So the blockchain, I think, is the biggest issue.
That's the thing, is because they created their own tokens and didn't use existing ones. And the fact that they held that money is going to make them. A lot of it comes down to the court that they're in and the judge that they get. And again, Paul Lesko is going to be the one that's going to be able to speak on this a lot more intelligently than I am as far as the legal side of things. But again, depending on the outcome of this, it could have some serious ramifications both directions. Because if it comes out that this is art, then it's just more of a wild, wild west. If it comes out that these are seen as securities, not only is Dapper Labs going to have a serious problem on their hands, some of the owners might as well, depending on what the lawsuit ends up looking like. So stay tuned, but check out Paul Lesko's thread if that is your cup of tea, because it is extremely fascinating, and you can get pretty deep into it with some of what the lawsuit says. So PSA Regular is back. Regular is now back at $100 per card. PSA does state that lower pricing is coming next year. They offer their services that if you have, basically they're like, hey, if your card is priced at $1,500 or less and it would benefit from PSA, please send them in and get that back in under 90 days. And it's like, who benefits? What benefits? I don't get it, PSA. What are you trying to say? It's like, I mean, the way they worded it was just like total desperation, almost as if they're starting to see a shift in the fact that you have more competitors, as well as the fact that I think people are getting smarter, that why would I spend $100 to get a card arbitrarily graded when I can spend $100 in the hobby elsewhere and increase my inventory and collection?
Yeah. And I don't want to grade. When I buy a card that's graded, I crack the graded case. So
yeah. But hey, if grading is your thing, PSA Regular is back. Just ask them. Kind of disappointing news, but not to say we couldn't see this coming, as hyperinflation continues to hit us all over the place. USPS, FedEx, and UPS announces 2022 shipping rate increases via eBay. USPS will have anywhere from a 3.1% to an 8.8% increase in shipping costs. So I think more and more sellers are going to need to embrace the PWE shipping program. I've seen as high as $5.50 recently in some of the ones just for a single card for shipping. Sorry.
I need to go back and take a look at my shipping costs on the brakes. Oops.
You might need to adjust if you're shipping. So FedEx is actually higher as a baseline. They've got 5.9 to 6.9%. And then UPS, no changes at this time. So as of now, there are no announced shipping rate increases to the eBay PWE shipping label program either. So we're still at the $59.79.99 or $53.73.93 or whatever it is. Taco Bell needs to go back to that too. Charging $1.19 for a bean burrito. Come on, man. Are you insane? And then got one last topic, guys. eBay case number 10,732 or whatever number we're up to these days at Card Boys with a Z. They had tweeted out, hi, I don't feel good about leaving positive feedback as I have purchased 3 packs from you and never got good packs. I saw you sold a few Ja Morant and Zion Williamsons individually, and I hate to speculate that you pulled them and then sold the bad packs as Ja and Zion traveled together in optic cellos. Or cellos, or however you'd like to pronounce that word. I was actually close to asking you for some sort of refund, as I think you may have done this. Not 100% sure, though. Of course, it's just hard for me to leave positive feedback, as I may have been screwed into the leftover packs you didn't feel were worth opening yourself. I am open to a partial refund if you are open to that. Thanks. That coming from Carnation 057-3, being the eBayer that
How
opened.
much feedback?
He had 679, something like that. 689. the little purple star.
Okay.
But that's subjective, right? There was that one we talked about a while back that had like a couple dozen bad ones, but they're going down as positive unless you're reading it. If you're just basing it off of the number doesn't mean anything. My number is like almost 6,000, but I have like over 22,000 purchases because I buy 50 cards from you this week, Andrew. You give me 50 feedback. My number goes up by 1.
Yep.
Because it's the same week, not by 50, even though I've completed 50 auctions and paid for 50 successfully. I get 1 feedback. That's anyway. He bought 3 packs, 3 random packs.
Yeah, but he didn't hit the Zion 1 of 1, so he got screwed.
Like Gary Vee said, somebody's going to pull that 1 of 1 Zion out of a $5 pack, and it's going to be $20,000, guys. Imagine had he not
someone's
said
going to
that.
win the lotto, so doesn't mean it's going to be you.
It's right, man. It's guys, a couple other things too. The shit you see on eBay. Is this what eBay has come to via All-Star Cards, also with a Z? Somebody's on a 2020 Bowman Chrome Bo Bichette photo image variation. He's like, I do $50 on it. That's the last comp on the 11th of December. The response from the seller, who is Chapia, CHAPAEA, Chapia -5361. His response is, kick rocks, fool. I hope Santa takes a shit down both you and your family's throat.
Jeez, that was an overreaction.
A simple no would have sufficed, right? I mean, I don't know if a $50 offer is fair.
Good.
Guy said it was what the last comp was, but it's just like, say, hey, you know what? Just ignore it.
Yeah.
But what's Santa Claus got to do with it? Santa Claus didn't do anything.
What if he's Jewish?
Man, just come on, eBay. Just be better, dude. I mean, calling all card doctors. Also, eBay via Watch the Breaks and Ivan. I don't know actually if this is eBay. Ivan tweeted at me the crap you see on Facebook, right, Ben? There's a guy, there's a scratch right along the top, and I apologize, I can't show the picture for those that are watching on YouTube, but top of this Fernando Tatis Bowman Chrome card has a nasty scratch along the top. And the seller says, Tatis has a scratch. If you're one of the experts at cleaning cards, then here's one for you. Rest of the card is clean. I'll take $1,700. And it's like, oh boy. What goes through people's heads? Like, and if that card increases so much, hey, why not hire a card doctor?
Yeah.
Well, why would you get those profits away? Keep those for yourself, Mr. Seller. Come on. It just, again, it goes to the validity of how much cards, how many cards out there have been altered by the first set of hands on them, maybe the second set, and then they get graded, don't get graded. It's just, it's hard to buy something anymore and really know that that's how it was pack pulled.
Yep.
Yeah. So before we get out of here, guys, I got a couple of shout outs. Steph and I would really like to give a very special thank you to all of our guests and guest host, present company included, from 2021. And it's a list of some hobby icons not to be used frivolously. In order of appearance, first appearance, only for those of you, some of you that appeared more than once. I'm not mentioning your name 7 times. Sorry, Andrew.
What?
I know. So we'd like to thank, in order of appearance for 2021, Ryan Cracknell, Blake Jameson, Chris Torres, Angela Loeffler, James Good, Brian Murphy, James Kikowski, Ben Aguirre, Nick Wasika, Doug Caskey, Joey Shiver, Herman Bryant, Andrew Renault, Ryan Nolan, Jeff Zelsky, Omar Cornelius, Joey Shiver. I think I have on there twice, so he got his name on there twice.
Oh.
Dr. James Beckett, Sal Berry, and Tim Parrish from the Puck Junk podcast. Tops Living Artist Jared Kelly. Gerald New. Got ahead of myself. Nick Duante, Jeff Soxie, Tony Bianchini, Ken Kinsley, Nick Vosbrink, Mike Biggins, my dad Rick Wilson, FCG CEO Matt Schwartz, Upper Deck President Jason Mashara, Chris Harris, and Dewey Lund. I hope I mentioned everybody. And then Andrew Renault, and how many times 10x. I want to say a special thank you to Tim Shepler, Chris Harris, Ryan Cracknell, and Paul Lesko for hopping on with us on short notice after the Fanatics announcement on August 19th. Literally, that was thrown together literally at the last minute. And then special shout out to Tim Shepler for all that he did for About the Cards for 3+ years. And I hope he knows that all of the guest hosts we've had on are just keeping his seat warm. So hopefully we will see him more in 2022. And if nothing else, just to check in with him and how True Sports Cards are going in Roseville, California. And, it's been a great year for us here at About the Cards, despite the fact that Steph decided to take a 2-week vacation at the end of the year. Appreciate both of you guys hopping in again on short notice. This is not how we scheduled this particular episode, but due to some unforeseen circumstances with Dub and Steph, and again, hopefully Steph's mom will be okay. Appreciate you guys hopping in on the last minute. So not to get too sentimental, I really don't like you guys all that much because of what you guys did to that hockey show. Literally, after I got out of the hospital, I'm listening the next day. I'm like, what the hell, guys? Seriously? Appreciate you hopping on, but come on. It's like hockey, baseball, hockey. I'm like, oh, dear.
You knew it was going to happen.
As soon as I saw the 4 of you guys on, I'm like, oh, this is not going to be an episode I'm going to enjoy. But, hey.
Yeah. No, thanks for having us. I'm always a phone call away if you ever need a guest host. I mean, even if you don't need a guest host, if you're getting the CEO of another major sports card company on, I can hop on as well, even if you don't want me to. But yeah, I mean, everything you guys do for this hobby and just keeping it going, I love it. It's a fun podcast. I love listening to it. Keeps everything fresh, and yeah, I'm always here for it. So thank you to you three as well.
Except for last week when I called you, you weren't available.
Yeah, it's been a year and a half. The first time I said no in a year and a half.
Yeah, I reiterate what Andrew says. And next time Jason's on, Ben, I'm taking your spot, buddy. You don't need to be here.
I'll just be the host that week. Steph can be the producer, and we can get some hockey heads on to talk. We're going to reach out. We're going to try to get Jason on again if he's available. Hopefully maybe in March or April, and maybe one of their brand managers from their non-sports entertainment brand manager would be cool. Talk some other types of sports or cards. So if your name was not on the list in 2021, we want you on the list in 2022. If you've never been on the show, reach out to Steph or I. We'd love to have you on, get different insights and opinions. And it's been a really good year. So again, thank you to you two individually for hopping on today and throughout the year. And, we'll raise that digital glass of love and joy and shared passion for the hobby. Here's to 2022. Hopefully it's a really good collecting year for us, for you out there listening, and for all the collectors out there that don't listen. And hopefully in 2022 they might listen. So
yeah, what are you guys doing on Wednesday nights? Jeez.
Literally, I asked all of my coworkers on Thursday morning, "What did you do last night?" And they're like, "Oh, I watched Game of Thrones, or I watched some other Netflix."
Well, that's all right then. I understand.
No,
that.
I'm like, "You did what?" And they're like, "Yeah." And I'm like, literally, none of you listen to my podcast ever. Worked with all you guys for 2 years. And then hey, you know what?
Well, you've never invited them on.
I didn't invite them on because you got to listen to me. You got to listen at least once before you get invited on. It's the rules. I don't make them. I just have to enforce them. It's in the show notes somewhere. And then, hey, on Amazon.com, you can type in my name, The Prison of Your Past. Mm-hmm. It's available on Kindle. It's available on paperback. I can probably get some ones, and I can probably sign them and send them. We can talk about that if you want to read a book. It's a good book. I wrote it. I know it's good because I read it too. So anyway, final thoughts. I think we're okay. Let's remember we're live every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on YouTube, 10 Central. Make sure to subscribe and review our show on all platforms. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at About the Cards. Apparently, we're on Instagram, I guess. Steph says it, so it must be true. You can follow me at Our Trading Cards. You can follow Steph at Junk Wax Twins. Andrew, where can we find you?
Bayside Breakers.
Jeff, if somebody out there outside of Steph and your mom or maybe your neighbor or something wanted to get a hold of you, where would they find you?
Twitter Salsky, spelled properly, right down there. There you go, buddy. Hockey, you want to talk hockey? We can talk hockey. If you're a Minnesota fan, get it on my feed.
There's like 8 Z's in that. How do we spell it for the ones listening? There's no way they're going to be able to sound that out.
SZELZKI. There you go. Just go find me. If you're a Pittsburgh fan, say hi.
Looks like an eye chart. So next week, January 5th, we've got Jeff Soxie back on. So there'll definitely be some, probably a little economics talk there. You can find him at Jeff_Soxie, SACHSE. On the 12th, we've got Doug Caskey from Mojo Break. Episode 186 on January 19th is going to be really interesting. We're going to have Matt Peak from Parkside Cards.
Nice.
That'll be an interesting one. And then to round out January, we're going to have Nick Wasika on. We'll find out. I think that's about when Flagship Hockey's coming out. So we'll kind of see, allegedly, when they're coming out. So we'll kind of see what he's doing with Upper Deck and what's going on in his world. We haven't had him on in a while. So, please share your hobby stories, great pulls. Send your questions our way. Have a happy and, more importantly, safe New Year, everybody.